Hey, it's Aurelius Chin, and just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to edit the included e-covers. Now, first of all, these e-covers are not powered by action scripts in Photoshop. That was the previous or older version of the design templates that we used. The system that we use now is still within the Photoshop program, but we use a technology now called Smart Objects, or we utilize that feature of Photoshop. So the first thing you're going to need is Photoshop. So if you simply go to Photoshop, do a quick search on Google for Photoshop, go to their landing page, and you can see here. And if you go to download, you can actually download a free 30-day trial. So it's going to give you a full 30 days to give it a try, install it on your system, whether it's Windows or Mac, it should work on both. And if you do decide to continue using it, which I do recommend for design purposes to create your product covers, and do sign up. You've got different types of plans to fit your needs. Once you've downloaded it, open it up. So you've got the canvas looking like this. But the next thing we're going to do now is open the product covers. Now let's go back. I'm going to now go to the graphics folder. So this is within the private label rights folder. You've got 7 or graphics. Might not be number 7 depending on the time that you watch this video. Might have updated it, but look for the graphics folder and then look for the PSD files. So PSD files are the Photoshop files. Once you've opened that, you can see these different types of styles of products. You've got the box cover, you've got the ebook you've got the ebook stacked, and you also have the bundle. So I'm going to run through 2 different types of editing sections. So we've got the ebook stacked and also the ebook and the box and bundle, but I'm going to show you how to edit the bundle and the ebook stacked for this demo, as the steps will basically be the same for all the other covers, such as the magazines, the sheets, the thin magazine, DVD. So let's first walk through the ebook stacked. So what you do is you can either right-click open with Photoshop. If you're using Windows, it's something similar, but you can also go to Photoshop, File, Open, and locate the PSD file. So once you have it open, you can see this, the graphic is right here. And so we don't need any sophisticated software really. Everything's built into this e-cover template. On the right side, you've got layers. Now, if you don't see this window here, simply go to Window, then make sure layers is selected. You can see a checkbox there. So once that's open there, you should see it appear somewhere around this right side of the window. And from there, you can see the ebook stacked folder. And what you want to do is just click that drop down if it's not already expanded. Next, you'll see 2 green tabs. You can see here the green colored ones. You've got the spine, so meaning that's the spine of the ebook, and we've got the cover, and it says edit this, which means these are editable. The other layers you can disregard. They are there just for the purpose of creating this actual cover. So let's first do the cover. This is obviously if you want to edit, let's say, the name of the ebook, change the subtitle or change the image and whatnot. So let's double click this. So I've double clicked it. Now it opens up a new tab, as you can see, a new window. And this brings us to the editing mode. And so we can start, let's say, change the title of this ebook. Choose the text tool, which is here. So press once. And let's say we want to call it leadership. Give it a new title. Oops, I've done a... So you've got another folder called title. and there's a word called authority. Now, this might not be editable because the designer created it as an image, so I can basically hide that. Let's hide that, and we can also hide leadership if we wanted to call it something else. But these are all in separate layers, and so I want to disable authority. And now I use the text tool, and let's give this color white because white stands out on the red. Click once somewhere in the middle here, and if you've already come up with a new name, then type it in. I'm going to come up with one from the top of my head, so leadership. Let's give it handbook. Now, you can see that's obviously not the right size, so all I want to do is type in the word, and now I can basically highlight it. And from the top section, we've got different fonts. Now, depending on your system and what fonts you have installed, that's what is going to be listed right here. So for this example, I'm going to choose something like, keep it simple, let's choose Arial. And you can choose regular, bold, and so on. So now on the right, you can also see different sizes. Let's give it 72. And now if you want to manually increase it, let's get out of here by selecting basically this cursor, crosshair, and that gives us the selection tool, which we can then drag wherever we want. And now on my keyboard, I can press on the Mac is Command T, or if you're using Windows, it should be Control T, and then we can drag these corners. Now, if I just drag it, it's going to expand it, and that looks really weird. So what you do to keep the proportions right is to hold the Shift key on your keyboard. So hold the Shift key on your keyboard and then simultaneously use your mouse to drag in this bottom corner here. So as you can see, it keeps the proportions right and it doesn't look stretched and skewed. So do that until you're happy with the size. So I kind of like that. And so now it's called Leadership Handbook instead of the Leadership Authority. And you can do the same for the subtitle. So that's the subtitle here. And because obviously this is a layer, I can't really edit it. But if this was simply text, then I would be able to select this text tool, click once anywhere in the text here, and that should be editable. So this is an exception because this particular design that the designer created had not created it in the text format. But in other packages, in most cases, it will be editable. But in this demonstration, really, it's a good way to know this anyway. So using the text tool, click there, and then put in your subtitle, then how to lead a team, just like that. Lead a team and become an extraordinary leader. So that's that. I've already inserted. So if I want to get out of this editing section, I just click this selection tool and now I can drag and drop, and that is still too big. And so we can then use the text tool again, this time selecting all, and then I can align it to the center. And now I'll just move it. So you can move it. You can see with the cursor there's that selection crosshair, and right there. And now I can resize it. So again, Control T or Command T, and just dragging it so that it fits. So it's in the middle somewhere there. And this is another layer here. We've got an image, and so if I want to hide it, again, that's that little eye icon, and I can then drag a new image, put it right here in replacement. So I'll demonstrate how to put an image now. Okay, so I had to pause this video and find an image, but I'm back now and I found an image, and here it is. So what I'm doing now is dragging it from my desktop to the Photoshop canvas. And there we go. We've got the image. The alternate way to open an image is to basically go File, Open, and locate that image. But now you can see that it's somewhere around here and it's not looking too good. But let's first hide this older image. So I'm going to just select that tool, that icon, so that's deselected. And now drag this somewhere here. And now to resize again, Command T on the Mac or Control T on Windows. And now hold the Shift key and drag it till you're satisfied with the location. And next, if we want to remove this white background, now this can be done in images that are not too many shadows and effects. If it's a solid image that has solid edges, then that's going to be an easier job for us to remove the background. So I want to remove this white background. We can choose this tool and choose the magic eraser tool. So from here, there's actually 3 different eraser tools. So what I'm doing is just clicking once, and that should bring it up. Choose the magic eraser tool. And from here, we want to basically click once on the background, but it seems like there's a cross there, which will probably ask me to convert it. The smart object must be rasterized, and that's fine. Do you want to rasterize it? I'm selecting OK, and now it's bringing that little eraser tool. And so let's click once and see what happens. All right, there we go. As you can see, as I mentioned, if there's any shadows, then that's going to make it harder. And so there's this white space as well in between, which didn't erase. So if I click that once again, that should be removed. And let's try to remove this shadow as well. It might not do a good job at all, but as you can see, I'm trying to click somewhere around here, but it's got that little bit. And so let's try another, but it's not detecting it, or I might need to zoom in, so I can use this magnification tool. Let's zoom in so we can get closer. Click this eraser tool again. Let's click once, and there we go. So now we've sort of zoomed in and fine-tuned and located that particular color. And so there's this little bit as well that we need to remove, and this one too. There we go. Seems like I've removed everything. Now let's go back to our usual view, not this zoomed in view. So if I click this magnification, I can go fit on screen, and that should bring it back. And so I've now got this little man here. I can move it anywhere I want. But let's say I want to also change its color. So let's change its color. So using the selection tool, click once anywhere on the background. That should select the right layer from this area. And as you can see, if you want to double check that that is the layer, then, deselect it. And that's where you get. So now I can basically choose the paint bucket tool, and let's choose paint bucket tool and choose a color. Now you can select from this section, and using this color picker, I can drag, let's say I want it like this sort of blue. All right, so I've selected that. Using your mouse, that's all it is, and press OK. Now, if you want it web safe colors only, so that these are colors that are basically web safe, meaning it'll look and be compatible on all browsers and views and monitors, things like that. So there's less of a choice of colors, but in the end, you're going to get safer colors, and it won't look incorrect on anyone's device. Usually I just use this, and since we're quite technologically advanced, then most things can view all types of colors. So press OK. And we can either click once here. Let's see what happens. And that's what I suspected. There's 2 different types of colors here. So instead of, let's undo. Now to undo, you can go edit and go step backward. Or on the control, or on your keyboard, you can go Command Option Z. Otherwise, if you want to keep it simple, go Edit, step backwards. So that's always going to take you a step back. So instead of basically putting the paint bucket tool over this layer, I'm going to select a new layer right here. So if you can see this, it's called Create New Layer. And that should create it on top of this layer so that it'll overlap it. So all these things, elements, these layers work on top of each other. So the higher you put it, the higher it'll be in terms of the location of that layer. So I'll demonstrate. Let's use a paint bucket tool again. Make sure the color's right. Click once where you want it. And so that's the right section. Now, if I put it behind that red background, drag it, you can see now the red layer overtakes the blue. And if I put the blue right on top as the first layer, nothing else will show since that's overlapping everything else. So placing it in the right location is important. Once you're satisfied with your design, let's say I'm happy with this, I can then basically go File, Save, wait for it to save. Now I can close it. And now if you remember back where this initial cover was, where we started, that's where all the changes will take effect with that. Now the only thing we need to do now is change the spine color. So if we basically go to the spine layer, double click that now, this is all it is. So we can now use a paint bucket tool, and generally we would use the same color as the background of the front of the cover. And so I've got this layer, this color already selected. Go back to the spine, make sure use a paint bucket tool, color's already selected. Click once where the main layer is. So you can see this was the previous. Once, and go File, Save, close it, and there we go. We've got now the new e-cover all done. Now, let's say we want to prepare it ready for the web or our website, so we can then use it on our sales page or landing page. We can then go File, Export, Save for Web, and now we are given this extra large size. Now, you can decide to use this if you want to, but most cases you will want to reduce the size of the image. But if you do want to save it as is and keep it large and keep it very high in quality, then you can leave it as is. Now you can select different types of file formats. You can save it as a GIF, a JPEG, PNG. Most cases you'll simply use PNG. JPEG if there's a photo involved. So if you have a real photo, like of a person or a businessman, let's say, then you would save it as JPEG because that's the optimal file format for it. Now, if you have these little cartoon characters and just simple colors and text, then PNG will do. Now, if you want to use PNG 24 and use transparency, now what's transparency? Transparency is so that doesn't matter what background you put this cover, the background will then use your website's background. So let's say your website's background is green. So this e-cover on top of the green background, you'll have the green background instead of the white. But in order to save it as a transparent, you need to, let's cancel this. You can see here there's a background, deselect that. Now you've got transparency. Go back, export, save for web, and now you can use this transparency, as you can see. So it won't actually look like these checked boxes. It's just indicating that this is a transparent image. You can deselect it and that'll just give it a white background. But otherwise, if you don't want a transparent background, simply select PNG 8 and that'll do. But you can see that the quality really is bad once you put the PNG, but you can deselect the transparency. But if you do want to use transparency, always use PNG 24. Otherwise, use PNG 8 to keep it smaller in file size. You can see the file size right here, 272. But if I use 24, it's like double the size. So once you've done that, just click save and you're done. Now, if you want to resize the image, go to image. I'm going to put the background back on, but let's go image size. And right now, these are the number of pixels, but you can change it depending on the metric they use. You can do it by percentage. Let's say that 50% of what this current size is. So the dimension ends up being this 869 pixels by 1000 pixels. If you want it smaller, let's say 25%. That's a good number. Press OK. Now, this is not what it's going to look like because it's just my screen, but if I go 100%, that's the actual size. And now we can go File, Export, Save for Web. And you can see the file size has drastically reduced to just 91 kilobytes. And for this, I would save it as a PNG for this type of eCover, realistically. So click save and you're done. So now it's like 36.53 kilobytes, which is nothing. And that is done. All right. So once you've done that, what you want to do is basically take this, move the layers over to any other templates that you want to do. Let's say the bundle image. And I'll show you basically how to do it. But for now, because I've already reduced this size, if I save it, it's going to save it as this really small size. So I'm going to go a step backward. So it's back to its original size. And I can save this. Make sure you save this template. And let's go back and choose that bundle image. Okay, so I'm back in the PSD folder. You've got the bundle. It's going to drag this into Photoshop. And so I've got now the bundle image. And on the right, you can see the different styles. So I've got ebook stacked, which is this. DVD on the left. The thin magazine. Let me clarify which. That's the one right here in the middle. Got the sheet, which is a checklist. Box. And the magazines that are laid out. Let's first start with the ebook stacked. So same concept. You've got the front and the spine. Open each one. You're in editing mode. And let me show you how to basically drag. You don't have to do it all over again. You can just open the one that you've already edited. And so I've got this, but you also need to go to editing mode as well. So go to the cover, open that. You've got that and that open side by side. So drag and adjust the canvas. So I'm going to just drag this so I can see both. And so I want to just drag all these layers over here rather than redoing everything. So going here, I've got all these layers. So selecting from the background as a start, hold the shift key, select to the top, and that should select everything in between. And from here, I can basically do the same from the bottom, hold shift, selecting all the way to the top. And now I can drag it all the way to the trash can. Now I'm left with a blank canvas. And now let's go back here and select all these layers, drag it to this new canvas, and just adjust it so that we can take that whole space, which is right here. Now it might be different in size. As you can see, there's a bit of a gap on the right. In this case here, we can then, while all these layers are still selected, press the Control T or Command T on your keyboard. That should select it all. And we can then move and adjust to fit. So I'm going to hold the Shift key now and drag this section so that it covers the actual canvas. There we go. So now we can save this by going File, Save, closing it. And let's look back at our bundle. So let's go back to bundle. Let me open this. There we go. So there we go. We've got the front cover. We just needed the spine. So I'll skip the spine since it's quite easy. Just open that, change the color, following the same steps as the previous. Let me show you how to do, let's say, these magazines. Now, you don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to design all 4. You just need to do one, and it basically will just duplicate and clone it to the others. So same thing. So you've got magazines. You've got expand it. You've got the front. So I've got the editing mode for the magazines. And so same steps. I'm going to go back to the canvas for this by selecting the cover, which then opens this flat cover, and making sure all the layers are selected. Going back here, deleting what's there. And next, just dragging, dropping, and filling this space. So how do you know which space it is? You can see from here, the top, all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. And now you can see there's a bit of a gap on the right. So now, again, on your keyboard, Command-T or Control-T, dragging, holding the Shift key, keep the proportions right, press Enter. Now I'll go File, Save, close it. Let's go back to the bundle, and there we go. The only thing with this now is the spine, and again, the spine is editable. Open that up, use a paint bucket tool, make sure the same color is selected, click once, save. I like to use the Control S or Command S on the keyboard to save time and to actually save it. And now you can see it's filled in nicely. So you do the same for all the other layers. And once that's done, again, save it as for web, and you're good. So I won't go through all of it, otherwise it will take me a lot longer than this video can fit. I'm going to show you one more scenario. So we've got this DVD cover, and we've got this DVD that's round, while all these other ones are all square, sort of rectangle shaped. So I want to show you how to basically take these layers, put it onto the DVD cover. So we've got the DVD cover, and so you need to make sure you expand that section here. So let's expand it. And so there's two other categories called DVD and DVD cover. So this is the DVD cover, that's the actual DVD. Let's first do the DVD cover. So expand, and we've got the case cover, open that. And taking a look at this versus this looks a lot narrower, while this is wider. So same steps apply to copy over the layers. So I'm going to drag this to first fit my window, and so I can show you in this video. Let's also change this. All right, so I've got it now side by side, and making sure you, again, select all the layers here, and from here, delete the previous, put it in the trash can, and now I'm ready to basically drag and drop. Different depth, just press yes if you do get that error. All right, so we've got an issue with the size. So it's not as tall, and it's wider. So in this case, what we need to do is individually move the layers. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you fill the canvas with that blue background. And so I've got this background here. Since it's a solid color background, I can use the paint bucket tool, making sure I have that same color. If you want to reselect that same color, click it once, and there's that color picker icon. Just select it once, and then it'll basically take that. If I wanted the red, then just selecting that anywhere. But that's the one I'm sticking with, and making sure I select that background layer. Clicking the empty gap, that should fill it. All right, so now let's move the rest of the layers by selecting the selection tool. Now I've got the leadership handbook right there. What I want to do is take the whole of the title. This includes the title and the subtitle. So I've got subtitle here, and I've got the title. right here. So what I want to do on my keyboard is hold shift and press once on that subtitle. And what that's going to do is it'll group it so that when I do drag, actually if I select it from here instead of the folder, from the actual layer to the subtitle, what that's going to do is group it together so that I can move it all together rather than moving it one by one like that. That's going to be a bit messy and inconsistent. So what you want to do is instead group it together by making sure it's all together. Now, if your subtitle, let's say, is all the way down the bottom and then you hold shift and there, it's not going to group that particular section. So making sure that you have the subtitle somewhat, before or after the title, that's going to help group it all together like that. So now we can basically move it, and if we want to resize it, again, hold Control T or Command T. I want it a bit smaller and adjust it right there. And I want to put this little man here somewhere in the middle. So, by selecting it, it'll select it. Now, if you have an issue with selection, I should have mentioned this from the start, but if you click the selection tool, make sure that it's selected as layer, not group, because if you select group, then it's going to select that whole group. So let's say since this is considered one group, one folder is one group. So if I select leadership, and if I select, if I drag any of these, it'll basically drag the whole group. And so that's why I like to use layer instead. And seems like I moved the background, but that's how you make sure that you have that selection option. And so now I want to put that in the center. And now let's save this DVD cover. So file, save, close it, and let's go back to the bundle. There we go. That's all we need to do. Now for the actual cover, or the DVD, that is. Make sure you select the DVD, selecting the green tab. Now we can see it's a round selection. And so what we can do from this point is first change the background manually by looking at the canvas or the selections, the layers here. And we can see obviously that is the color or the actual DVD. And now I can use the paint bucket tool, make sure to select this right color, click anywhere here, and I can keep going, but it doesn't seem to like it since it's not a solid color. But there seems to be another layer sitting on top of this that's stopping it from adding that color. So you can see, if I'm not wrong, it's this one here. I can deselect it. So that's one of them. And the other part is this one here. So now I've got just the color I want by simply deselecting. And every design is going to be different, so depending on the PLR package that you purchase. But that's the one. And now I can take the title from the cover. So let's open this cover again so I can drag the right layers. So it's right here. And simultaneously open this. And so I want to put this title over here. So first use the selection tool, click once somewhere around the layer there so that it'll bring up the right layers. So that seems to be the title section. So I'm going to delete this whole folder. So that's removed. And this one here too, I can delete. I'm going to leave that tab right here where it says video. It doesn't make a difference. Now, selecting this time with the selection tool, I only want to pick the layers that I want. So by starting off with the title, I'm going to just drag this whole group. Otherwise, you can just select the layers that you want. So in this case, I'm going to select leadership, the word, which is that, and handbook. So these two, by selecting the shift key and then dragging it to where I want. Now I've got only what I need. That seems rather big, so again, let's resize it. Command T. Let's make it a bit smaller and put it somewhere around here. Now we might need to do some playing around with if it doesn't turn out well, but that's that. Now we can now put the side title. So select it by using selection tool. Here's the layer. We can also drag it from this section over here, and that'll make a copy. It won't actually move it. So now that's that. And again, resize it to the way we want. That seems to be good. Or we can put it down the bottom if we wanted to. Let's see how that looks like. And this gives us a little more room to play around with. And that's somewhat in the center. So you got to tinker around with it a little bit until you get it right. But I'm happy with that. Let's click save, close it. Let's see how that turns out. So go to bundle. There we go. That looks pretty neat already. And so you repeat the same steps. And I showed you this scenario because the ones that are similar in size when dragging the layers, such as the ebook, the magazines, the sheet, the report, they are all similar in size, but this is different, and I'm sure the box is also different since it's wider. But those, once you know how to do these, you can basically edit the rest of the e-covers. So the same sort of steps apply to all the other e-cover product covers, and you can see each one is the ones that have a PSD format. They are the ones that are editable, and you can see the ebook stacked, which we just edited, the bundle. And if you know how to edit these, you should know and be able to edit all the other styles. So if you have any questions regarding the e-covers, do send us a support ticket at unstoppablehelp.com. And just as a side note, if you do want to use these templates for your own projects outside of what the product you purchased, then you do need to purchase a license to Smart eCovers. So this is all powered by Smart eCovers. So if you go to smartecovers.com, purchase a license, and you're free to use these templates, this system, for your own projects or projects for your clients.